Welcome back for another episode with mental health. This is Be Strong Courageous. I'm Brother Hiawatha, aka Bishop H, and we're going to continue this series on. Today, we're going to be talking about anxiety. I know that is a huge topic out in the space out there. I know many of us have dealt with levels of anxiety, and so we're going to dive head first into this. Before I do get started and bring my brother Jims in, I did want to read off what the actual definition of anxiety actually is. So, it is a state of apprehension, uncertainty, fear resulting from the anticipation of a realistic or fantasized threatening event or situation, often impairing physical or psychological functioning. So that's really what we're diving in today. We're going to tackle that today. We're going to talk about how we get to that space, how we can get out of that space. So without further ado, Brother Jims, can you give us some symptoms of anxiety?
What's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? And thank you very much, Bishop H. Yeah, man. I'm really excited about this mental health because of what it's doing. Whether people know it or not, our content is on Be Strong and Courageous, our YouTube channel. So you can go in the podcast or playlist and you'll see mental health with Bishop H. What we're doing on there, this series right now is called the Symptoms Effect. So what we mean by the symptoms effect, we're dealing. Last week we dealt with suicide. This week we're dealing with anxiety. Next week, we're dealing with depression. We're actually going through each symptom that people are dealing with on a consistent basis just to, tackle it and see what the word says about it as a source of encouragement and things of that nature. So what we're going to be doing is every week, man, we just going to be delivering, in a sense, a message of those things that just hopefully it helps somebody. So with that being said, I want to definitely get into the symptoms of anxiety, and I looked it up, man, and I'm like, wow, it's so the effects of anxiety on your body. I want to call it this first part. The effects of anxiety on your body it's like a churning feeling in your stomach, feeling lightheaded or dizzy. Man, I used to have those things all the time. I used to have these things called panic attack, anxiety attacks, whatever you want to call it. So I get it, 100% get it. So yeah, pins and needles, feeling restless or unable to sit still. Wow, that's a big one. That stops a lot of prayer for people. Unable to sit still. Mind is always on something. Headaches, backache, other aches and pains, faster breathing. You're not calm. You're not at peace. It's just you always something got you grinding and going. Sweating, hot flashes, sleep problems, um, needing to use the toilet more often, feeling sick, changes in your sex drive, and having panic attacks, like I was just explaining. So the effects of the physical effects of it is a real thing, bro. If you want to tackle the physical effects of what I just was talking about for a second, and then we can get over into the actual effects they have on your mind.
No, 100%. Thank you for sharing that information. I'll get into some statistics in a minute, but what you guys are going to find is the culmination of a lot of these things that we deal with. Obviously, we're talking about anxiety today. Is really just a mindset standpoint. So, when I think of any of the times in my life when I was anxious about something, it was just like it says. It was just like uncertainty. You know, having a mindset of like wanting to control the outcome. You ever been around people or situations they go, I just want everything to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
what whatever gave us that mindset of like, I just want everything to be perfect. And but more importantly, what does that mean? So give you an example. If you're, let's say, throwing a party, all right, and what does that mean, be perfect? The cake's got to be perfect, the food's got to be perfect, the dress has got to be perfect. But the reality is, what if something's a little bit off? What's really the ongoing effect of something not quite being perfect in our world? And it's just like, is it worth us being anxious about it? Oh, I hope the cake turns out just perfect. I hope the food is just right. I hope this, I hope that. But the reality is, if it were not to happen and everything didn't go, let's just say the cake came late, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Does it really change the celebratory atmosphere?
Right.
It's just like we put ourselves in these boxes where we create these anxious moments because we just want to control every single thing.
Mm.
And God doesn't even want us to be anxious about anything. And
Yep.
so I just want to stop right there for just a second, but just think about wanting to have everything perfect. And we everybody knows somebody who's a control freak.
Right. Yeah.
We've
Definitely.
all been in situations where like we want to control this and make sure it goes everything just right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, do we even know what just right is in the eyes of God?
Most definitely. And I can appreciate that perspective because I like when you just said this, the feeling inside to control the outcome of a situation. And I want to get into now the symptoms or the effects that anxiety can have on one's mind. Because we just talked about the physical, but everything, a lot of times they say it starts in the mind. And man, when you hear this, man, we can see our nation, we can see our world just on these things right here. So let's check this out. Feeling tense, nervous, or unable to relax, having a sense of dread, fearing the worst. Oh my, we call those pessimists in our society. Feeling like the world is speeding up or slowing down. Feeling like other people can see you're anxious and are looking at you. Feeling like other people can see how anxious you are and that they're looking at you. Feeling like you can't stop worrying or that bad things will happen if you stop worrying. Worrying about anxiety itself. For example, worrying about when panic attacks might happen. Wow, bro. Man, I'm gonna read a few more and then it's a Bible verse that I wanted to throw in there real quick before we proceed to the next thing. But
Mhm.
worrying that you're losing touch with reality. What reality? Right?
The world's reality.
Right. Low mood and depression.
Oh yeah.
Rumination, thinking lot of bad about thinking a lot about bad experiences or thinking over a situation again and again and again. These things create anxiety, man. Worrying a lot about things that might happen in the future, man. There's a proverb and I want to read it from a few versions. From the NIV, it says, Proverbs 12:25. This is what it says. Anxiety, give me 1 second. All right. It said anxiety weighs down the heart. Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up.
Absolutely.
And then a New Living Translation says, worry weighs a person down. An encouraging word cheers a person up. Worry weighs a person down. It reminds me of who can add an hour to their life by worrying, right?
100%.
It says a New King James Version says anxiety in the heart of a man causes depression. Anxiety in the heart of a man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. And then a King James Version says heaviness in the heart of a man maketh it stoop, but a good word make it glad. Bro, when I was reading these different versions of it, it's like, bro, anxiety is like counterproductive.
Super counterproductive.
Yeah, but I'm gonna hand it back over to you for a moment, bro.
Yeah, I mean, from a mindset standpoint, it's like, are you a anxious person
Mm-hmm.
or are you just anxious in specific moments?
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you kind of a breakdown of what I mean. It's like a person experienced being in a car accident at some point in time in their life. It could be young, adult. So now they get back on the road and they're anxious about driving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're anxious about driving. And so I used to teach people like my agents and stuff, health insurance. I used to teach them your preparation plus your knowledge gives you confidence. Okay. Let me say that again. Preparation and knowledge gives you confidence. The thing with anxiety is we want to be able to control all outcomes as opposed to being okay with all potential outcomes that can happen. So let me preface that. If you are driving in a car, you have to be able to say, can I take everything that comes with potentially being in this vehicle? Whether that is a flat tire, my car breaks down, I get in an accident, I get there safely. Are you okay with all those? Because those are all elements a lot of times that we cannot control. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're bad, but in our mind, we're like, man, if I'm late because my car breaks down, I'm gonna be upset and that's gonna make me anxious. And it's just like, what's the worst thing that's really gonna happen? You're gonna call your boss, hey, my car broke down, I'm gonna be late.
Right.
It's like, is your, in other words, it's like, if these ideas in our mind happen, does it really stop your world? Or are we on that, I just want everything to be perfect? Because I told everyone before in our previous episode, John 16:33 says, in this world you will have trouble. Take heed, I've overcome the world. And so it's just like, it goes back to a mindset of, there's a lot of things that go into what is actually causing me to be anxious about this specific thing. And so we really want to break that down and ask those questions to ourselves when we're having anxiety. Can we be okay with everything not being perfect all the time? Can we do that? And a lot of us can't. Or are we such control freaks? We want to control everything. And when we want to control everything, that leaves very, very, very little room for God to work in our lives. You see what I'm saying? And so we wonder why we carry these ancient moments, these ancient thoughts, or this overall feeling of, I'm just an anxious person because I want all these things to be on what I think is on point.
Right.
As being okay with things being the way that they are, because we only have a certain amount of energy that we can exhibit, and then after that we have to be able to take whatever comes with the process at that point.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, man. I believe from how you just even described it and spoke about it, I think that we can, because I know you have some statistics you want to go over, but I think we can look at even just around us. And if you stop and God, there's this gift of that God gave us. It's called the gift of discernment, right? Distinguishing between spirits, things of that nature. And so when we are operating in from that place, the gift of discernment and things of that nature, we can actually see what people are experiencing and going through and what they need help with. But you know what I realize? It's not always our job. It's not always our job to make sure everyone is okay. Because if you make sure someone is okay in the moment and they're not okay for life, you just did a disservice. Because discipleship, people have to be disciple out of these things, bro, because but they have to be willing, and that's the part I want to get to. The willingness to overcome anxiety is where all of this, the healing starts, because he said by faith you are healed. So I'm willing to actually short circuit a habit, short circuit a thought process I have, because I believe that I can overcome anxiety. I believe I can get out of this place. So with that being said, can you give us some statistics of that you looked up with anxiety, man?
Absolutely. Give you some statistics. It says 19% of adults 18 years or older experience anxiety on a yearly basis. In females and women, 23% is what is experienced by our ladies. 14% is what is experienced by the men. But get this, 22.8, almost 23%, almost 23% have a serious impairment when it comes to anxiety. 33% have a moderate impairment, and 43% have a mild impairment when it comes to anxiety. So that's a lot of people when you're thinking of a country that has about, let's just use the United States, roughly about 335 million people just in our country alone. And if you apply those percentages, those are a lot. And it brought something to me when it comes to the anxiety, because, we spend so much time trying to portray, give, be a certain type of image, status, those types of things. And when I made that statement about I just want everything to be perfect, it's like, who are we trying to impress?
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, like, who when we're talking about these things that we're engaging in, who are we trying to impress? You see what I'm saying? When it comes to this anxiety thing, we place anxiety on work. Oh, I got to get this project done. I got to do these types of things. We put anxiety on parenting. We put anxiety on all these different things that make us anxious in the moments when it comes to our life. And everything about this is unhealthy. When you're talking about a long, consistent role of being in anxious moments, it's just not healthy, for the body to try to make everything perfect, have no issues. And it's not like we're out there seeking to have issues, but it's just like we have to do what we can with our human strength and then have enough faith that God is going to connect the dots and be okay with it.
Mm-hmm. There's some things that you was just hitting on, and I think a lot about a lot of therapy and a lot of counseling, right? And a lot of times we are trying to get people to revisit the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned I'm not always trying to be controversial. Just let everybody know it's not me just trying to be controversial. I just believe God, and if it makes sense, it makes sense. If you don't agree, you don't agree. That's cool. But I've learned over the years that um God doesn't want us to revisit our roots. He actually wants us to understand the root, and then understanding he can establish you. Why did I just say that? Remember when God would tell the new generation, your forefathers did this, right? He never said, I want you guys to go back and revisit why they did this, what they was doing, and all this, like getting the nuts and bolts. Like you get what I'm saying? He never had said those kind of things. But look, what how you acting right now is how your forefather was acting, and that's why I had to destroy them and blah blah blah. And they couldn't go in the promised land. If
Right.
you think about what I just said, God never said go revisit your root and cry over it and whatever. He wants you to understand why you're operating the way you're operating, and that understanding comes from that place, knowing that someone else before me acted this way and God ain't pleased with it. If I revisit it, if I take that time to revisit it, I'm not actually moving forward. I'm revisiting a feeling. I'm revisiting a place. So I just realized how important it is to understand the root of stuff, because if you understand the root, that's almost like saying I know these are just symptoms of a deeper problem. These are what I'm dealing with suicidal thoughts, anxiety, depression, OCD, the different things that we're going to be covering. I understand that this is the symptom of a deeper issue. And so I just wanted to share that. And one more thing I wanted to add, the anxiety or anything that what we have a lot of times that we're dealing with, I believe it comes a lot from the competition, things of that nature. I think a lot of things that we deal with come from that place. And because, like, I remember being young, and the people in the nicer neighborhoods can get the Air Jordans and stuff, or the Bo Jacksons, or something that I would want, right? And going to school, I would see it, and it made me feel a certain way when I saw that they had the shoes, the nice clothes, and this and that. And I'm knowing that we can't afford it. I remember my first pair of nice Nikes came from beside a dumpster. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of those anxious ways, anxiety type ways that we have, depression and thing, it comes from those comparisons that we have.
No, 100%. I'm glad you said that, because I was gonna kind of segue, but it just goes back to what I was just saying. Who we trying to impress? Like you
Hmm.
just said it. Like, I
Right.
was doing all these things. I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses. I'm trying to have the right shoes, this, that, and the other. It's just like, who we trying to impress? But more importantly, why? And when I say why are we anxious towards certain things, but then not anxious towards other things? Why can we not be anxious about making a meal, but we might be anxious about sending our kids off to school?
Hmm.
And it's just like, are we anxious about sending our kids off to school because of what's happening in the climate of America, or what's going on in our schools in terms of the level of violence that could potentially happen at your school based off of some individual who's suffering some way, shape, or form with their mental health? Is that giving you anxiety to send your kid after school? Is it a traumatic moment that it's happened in your life that you are continuing to revisit over and over and over again, that is not allowing you to move forward in that space or in that lane? These are things that we need to ask ourselves, so we can get to a place of healing and get it to a place of progression and get to a place where we can say, okay, I understand that specific event, but let's not let it hamper me in terms of moving forward as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
as a teen, as a young adult, as an older adult. We don't want to carry that around. I talked about in previous podcasts about checkpoints, trauma checkpoints. You don't want to still be having anxiety for something that happened to you when you were 15, when you were 20, when you were 12. We're going to have to get an understanding of what that is, but really, what's the truth on the other side of just being okay with engaging in specific things and not allowing it to cause you anxiety? Because that's where I think that we really fall short. We have a certain element of wanting things to just go right all the time. We have an element of wanting to look a certain way around people, which that is a comparison thing, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, as opposed to what God said, who we are and what we should do. And lest no man carry a anxiety that puts him in a place of, I mean, you just read all the symptoms. That's a lot going on. And it's just like, if you're in that mental state, how can you be at your full capacity to lead your family, to do your work, to serve your God, to do all these things that we want to do at a high optimal level, yet we're anxious? And it's like, for what? Because the reality is, the majority of the things that we are concerned and worried about, statistically speaking, 90% of that stuff really never happens that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, everything has a spectrum. So it's like, if something really great could happen and everything could go sweet, why do we gravitate on what could potentially go bad or what I can't control?
Mm-hmm.
What is giving us that mindset towards certain things here in the 4%, here in the United States? Why are we like that? So I encourage everybody to investigate the why. How did I get here? But why do I even think that this is something I should be anxious, fearful, or more importantly, am I a control freak?
Man, it's let me
Do I need to control everything all the time because I want to make sure that it goes right?
Mhm.
And what does that even mean?
Yeah, I want to throw something in there real quick. It's something you were saying about the value that we put on words or what someone think, and I think a lot of anxiety come because we don't value what God may say about us. We don't value that more than the certain things that people say about us, because reputation in this world is big.
Mm-hmm.
See, Jesus got to a point where his reputation wasn't even, because he knew what the Father said about him. He said, "You are my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased," right? So in this world, though, we don't have a lot of audible voices telling us this. So the audible voices we hear comes from a different place. Now, it ain't always the devil, right? It could be just someone's perspective about you, and when we put value on it, it can create anxiety. So
Mm-hmm.
if just say if you're a child who is 15 years old right now, say you are a horrible parent, you've been a horrible parent to me for all of my life, and all you did in your heart was try to do the right thing in training and raising your child, and all they think of you is as a horrible parent. You know that's going to create some type of tension in you when you're around that child, even if another child tells you that you are a good parent. But the negative that that child told you, it did something to you. For now, when you're around him, or her, it creates something that this child really thinks this about me. It's the
Hmm.
same as just say you're married. It's the same with a spouse or something. Or if my spouse thinks this about me, so I know that I have to be like this with that person. So when we become chameleons and things for every situation, this is not the same as Paul saying, "I'm becoming all things to all men." So a few could be saved. It's not the same thing, because he's not worried about. God already said, "Paul, you my apostle, who have I chosen to go out here and to preach to the Gentiles." What he's saying is, I understand people. So I know when I'm going out, I need to understand how these people think, it's not changing me what they think about me, but that's what happens in our world. We don't have a voice telling us audibly from heaven that this is who you are, this is what you're to do. And that's the one of the biggest, that's where anxiety come from, because you have a boss telling you, co-workers telling you, friends telling you, family, family, children, spouses, everybody's telling you how they feel about you, not without them even saying, "Hey, I feel this about you." They're actually telling you how they feel about you by how they receive you, respect you, encounter you. And these things create anxiety, because if you encounter somebody just at a store or something, they treat you bad, if you go back and talk to someone about that event, that creates a level of anxiety in you. This person felt this way at the store, and you start to tell the story, and you live it from an anxious place. Because you want someone to tell you that's not true, that you are not like that, that's not real. You kind of get what I'm saying now.
So are you saying that we care about what other people think?
uh More, but this is the biggest problem though. We care more about what people think because we
Verse
don't know what God thinks.
100%.
It ain't even like we know what God thinks. We care about what they think because we don't hear what God think about us. We don't know what God thinks about us.
And I told someone this a couple months ago. I said we spend more time worried about what the world thinks and says about us, and we don't spend any time figuring out what God really says about us. And it's just interesting because we're in a space where, like, we have anxieties about comparison, about things that really, in the big scheme of things, doesn't really matter. I mean, I know the Bible says a good reputation is more valuable than silver and gold, but let's not take that out of
Yeah,
context.
don't take that out
Let's
of
we're
context.
when God is explaining that scripture in the Bible, He is talking from a kingdom standpoint.
Hmm.
He is not going out and saying, "Hey, you need to have this type of presentation. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to make your own point. You need to please these people," right?
Right.
Because the reality is, everybody's always going to have an opinion about you. There's people that have an opinion about me as a believer
Hmm.
and what I represent. Everybody's going to have an opinion about you. So it's just not like, it's like, why not just do your father's will and what he says? Because he's
100%.
already told us what the end game is. Because, for instance, I attribute things to sports. They love you in sports when you give them what they want, but the minute you don't give them what they want, they don't love you no more. They
Hmm.
don't love you no more. When you don't score the points they want you to score, they don't love you no more. It's not real love. And so it's just like, why are we chasing approval from the world? Why even be anxious about those types of things? Why trying to be anxious to protect a reputation that is predicated on worldly success or items or things?
All right, so we got about 5 minutes, and we're gonna have to shut it down. But I want to do. I want to get to the part of healing now,
Yes, sir.
because I want to go through a few scriptures and definitely get your. I'm gonna read it from a few versions too.
Okay.
Philippians 4:6 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God." The NLV says this: "Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has already done." Wow. I like to go down to the King James version. It says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything." I mean, that's not the King James. This is a New King James. "Do not be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God." Be anxious for nothing. Don't be anxious about anything. These are great words to hear, bro. Great words to hear. How can we make this actual a reality? Well, the Bible tells us the biggest problem is prayer has become, I dump all this on God and walk off. No, that's what prayer, I dump and jump. I call it dump and jump. I
Hmm.
dump all this on God and I walk off. Guess what just happened? Anxiety walked off with you.
Hmm.
Anxiety is right on your coattail. Anxiety is right on your back. It's like, you know how they call it, the monkey on your back can't get the monkey off your back or whatever. Anxiety is that monkey on your back that you didn't even really dump to God because you walked away with it. You're still anxious. You're still. So the thing about prayer, the Bible says pray in the spirit on
Hmm.
all occasions. Watch this. So, what is the spirit wanting you to pray about? What is the spirit? The spirit wants dialogue, as we talk about a lot of times, right?
Hmm.
So, the spirit might need you to cry out, and so he can intercede with groan. Okay, the spirit is telling the spirit is telling everybody in heaven he's dealing with anxiety. He's dealing with comparison. He's dealing with competition in his heart. He's dealing with all this. And through your groans and you can't get the words out. See, that's where don't get to. That's the biggest problem. We cry over situations. We don't cry over overcoming.
Mm.
You see, we cry over situations. So we cry like, Lord, you know what I got going on. Lord, you know this, you know that, you know, no, 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 right? Overcoming is, Lord, I see how I'm comparing myself. I see I care about what people think. I need you to tell me what you think. I need to overcome what people think. You see how now the dialogue is happening? Because
Hmm.
I'm talking from a place of, I need now to overcome how I think. I need you to give me counsel. I need you to give me guidance. You see, now you don't walk away with anxiety because now you sit in it. What God does you, God, what do you need me to do to overcome anxiety? God, why do I feel anxious? God, what is it, what moments is it, what drives me to anxiety? How do I get out of anxiety? You see, this is prayer. When we don't do this, we're not praying about our anxious ways, because we're saying, Lord, you know all things. Lord, you know what I'm dealing with. You know what I'm going through. Well, that's regurgitating a prayer that you've heard from somebody else. That's not actually a heart to heart. That's more saying, that's almost identical to waking up. Father, thank you for waking me up this morning. Forgive me for my sins that I'm about to commit today, basically. Prayer is so, see, the because prayer right here, when we say don't be anxious, is just a word.
Hmm.
It's not an understanding. The understanding is when Jesus went out on that mountain, bro, and prayed at night, you think he just said, Lord, you know what I'm dealing with. You know what I'm going through. You know, you think he did that? Or he said, Father, what do you have for me to do tomorrow? What is it that you want? Where do you want me? Didn't he say that we have to go to another town? Didn't he tell them that after he come from prayer? So
Hmm.
he got instructions coming from prayer on what he needed to do. Oh man, if we get this revelation, bro, we won't walk around with anxiety. We can have moments. Think about what I'm about to say. We can have moments, but it
Absolutely.
would not be your normal.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, man. I know you got something.
No, it's just you're 100% on point because this we want to make operational healing. We want to make operational healing for this, and it's going to require you to be intentional and ask specific things because in the flesh, there's going to be a lot of things we feel like that we cannot overcome. You're going to need more than you believe for God to step in, but you got to have to voice like, I do not want to have anxiety about this. I do not want to have anxiety about that. Lord, give me some operational daily habits that I can change that I may not be able to see, that is causing me to be in this realm of this mental state of anxiety because I don't want it. And when we're honest and at that place of wanting to deliver that over and be intentional about changing our habits and being accountable for what we do that have gotten us to that place, then we can have understanding and begin to heal.
100%, bro. I'm so glad that we are going through the symptoms. This what we doing with mental health right now. For anybody that's viewing, we are going through symptoms. We did suicide last week. That's going to be on our Be Strong and Courageous YouTube channel. It's just the letter B, Strong and Courageous. Um, th- what the reason I'm glad we're going over, because I realize suicide and anxiety are two different things, right? We went over suicidal thoughts last time. So I realized those are two different things, but they're symptoms. The suicidal thoughts is a symptom. Anxiety is a symptom. Now watch this. Now when you commit suicide, you see what that you see the difference in the thought and it became reality. So when you accept that you're anxious, it becomes your reality. When you accept that you're depressed, it becomes reality. When you accept that you're bipolar, it becomes reality. See, you can have bipolar thoughts, you can have anxiety thoughts, you can have depressed thoughts, you can have all these thoughts. But when you accept it and say, "Oh yeah, I've been diagnosed with clinical manic depression, and I take these pills for it," now that's who
Mhm.
I am. Not anything that God says about me. That's who I am. The doctor said it. That's who I am. I don't care what you guys are telling me right now. I still need this medicine. I still need this because the doctor told me this. Like whatever God is saying, yes, that sounds good and it makes me feel good in moments, but I'm still walking around with it. So where does healing come from, bro? And go ahead and wrap it up for us, though. I know we done went over.
No, that's 100% true. I'm gonna keep it short, but this is the reason why I have people that I do policies for that have been on these medications for 10 and 15 years. And the bottom line is because they haven't got any real healing. They were told to take a pill and it'll mask the symptoms, and their belief system is like, this is just what I am. So we want to get away from that. We appreciate y'all coming in, joining us. Please stay tuned for future episodes. Put your comments, requests down below in the comment section so we can, do some other areas that we can touch on. But from now, Brother James, you got anything else?
I have one more thing I wanted to share real quick. One more small thing, and it's deep. It's gonna be layered as I share it. Watch. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. If anybody ever been in our Bible study, they know I like to slow down when we read. It says, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." You know what it is to cast a fishing rod, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you cast the fishing rod and immediately reel it back in
Nah,
and just take it back out the water?
nah.
You let it sit in there for a while, right? It has to
Mm-hmm.
sit in there, and then it catches the bait, and the bait catches the fish, and then you reel it in. Casting all your anxiety is not a quick thing, bro. The casting process is not quick. Casting all your anxiety on him because he cares for you means I have to actually have a conversation. I have to sit here and have this conversation with God about where I'm at, why I'm here, how I get out, all these things. We're not doing that, bro.
Right.
The biggest problem, we're not doing that. How did he said, Lord, watch this. They had an agreement. Lord, if possible, if any way, take this cup that I agreed to drink, take it away from me. But if not possible, your will be done, right?
Yes, sir.
You see how this happens? Like we are rushing through prayers, we're rushing through life. And I think a lot of the way we live in cities have a lot to do with it. Every time I go get alone with God somewhere off in a remote place, something inside me changes. I can feel it. It's there. If you ever stand on land for about stand on land for about with nothing going on for about an hour. Pretty soon you're gonna be like, wow, this is peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you though,
No commotion.
that's right. I guarantee you though, when you first get there, you're unrushed. You have all these unrushed. I mean, your heart is in a rush place. I mean, your heart is in a rush place. It feels like, you know what I'm saying? But when you calm down, and that's what I realized. We are in these cities and anxiety is running rampant in a lot of people's hearts, and we're picking it up. We're picking junk up from everybody as we're going through life. Our kids are anxious about this, our spouses are anxious about that, our friends are anxious about this. Everybody's anxious. So you don't think that's going, didn't it just say anxiety weighs a man down? But a kind word cheers him up. Anxiety will weigh you down because if everybody's around you and filled with anxiety, how are you operating?
Not well, not well. Too many agendas, baby.
I
We
know,
got
right?
100 agendas out there, and we all trying to do all of them at once, and we're not designed for all that.
Yeah, man, you can wrap it up, though, man. That's all I wanted to share, man. That
No, that's
casting,
great. That's great because that's 100% what we do. We have to really get back to the relationship over this religion, folks. We really have to get in tune with what God's trying to do, instead of just like Brother Jim said, we got to stop all this, just dump everything. Well, he said, just bring it to him, just dump it off. All right, I'll see you later, God. Let me know what you think. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to get away from that. We really got to dig in, to what we're really doing that can affect our mental health. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and close down. I encourage everybody out there, clear eyes, full heart. Clear eyes, full heart. Go out there, be the light, spread the word, and always be strong and courageous.